this is inside information. JJ went to do Mission Impossible 3 and left Damon with this huge show called Lost. And he had never been a showrunner dealing with everything that a showrunner has to deal with. He's a writer. And he's a brilliant writer and a brilliant creator, but he never dealt with production in Hawaii and all that. So he was drowning and going insane. And we were doing an episode where Sawyer steals the asthma medication early on. And it was written that there was this 40-year-old couple that just came from around the back of the plane, who were the couple that the woman was suffering from asthma and needed it. And this was early on in the series. This was like episode 5, 6, or 7. And I said to Damon, there was no Carlton yet, so maybe it was episode 5. Carlton joined the show to run it with Damon around episode 5 or something like that. But whatever, it was early on. And I said, you know, I just don't care about these two people. And he said, well, occasionally those people are gonna have to come to life. And I said, yeah, but we have so many great characters on our show, and so many great actors. I said, what if it's Shanon and Boone? We haven't really done anything with them yet. And it was one of the few good ideas I had. And he got pissed off and said, I'm not doing that, I'm already writing the next episode. He was really, So I said, okay. And then JJ heard the idea, because at that point he was still listening to Damon calling him saying, what the F have you gotten me into, where are you? And so Damon sat home that weekend and rewrote it for Shanon, and it ended up really good. So that's an example of one of the few times anything major is changed based on our needs in Hawaii. But like if we can't shoot scenes at night, or look, the reason they had to move from the original beach to the new camp was because the ocean was taking the plane away. The North Shore, the sand, you know, during the winter, the waves come up and it's more turbulent, and literally we were going to have an ecological disaster, which in Hawaii you don't want to have, ever. But you have to be very careful because they're sacred lands. You can't blow up any tree you want. You know, it's all got to be approved and very carefully done, which is why Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg didn't do their new HBO miniseries War in the Pacific. They wanted to do it in Hawaii. But they ended up going to Australia because apparently you can blow up anything there. You know, the raft launch that we had scheduled, I said to the water guys who were brilliant, we're on the North Shore, what day can we do the raft launch? And they said, the ocean will tell you. And we said, okay, if it's too rough, you can't do it. Okay, so luckily we had 3 days of shooting, or 4 days of shooting that episode on the beach. So every day we'd go, and we'd say, what is the ocean telling us today? And on the day the ocean told us we can do it, it wasn't written that Vincent was supposed to swim after the raft.
Really?
No, it wasn't written.
That's the whole scene, huh? That's the point where
If you love dogs, yeah.
That's where the tears...
Yeah, no, I mean, what happened was we were on the set, and it was one of those moments as a director where you get a gift. And I had this image of Vincent swimming after Walt, and I turned to our dog handler, who considers herself a dog trainer but really isn't. And I said, don't tell me that Vincent is the only lab in the world that doesn't swim. And she says, no, he swims. So I said, will he swim after the raft? And she said, if I'm on it. So I said, okay, get on the raft. And we shot it. And then Maggie said, I'm going after the dog. I said, great. So it was this wonderful, and I surprised the guys in LA with it. And needless to say, they loved it. Occasionally there have been directors who have come. There was one season 1. We had a scene where Claire wakes up in the cave. Nobody here can mention that set. That wasn't our finest hour, the cave set. We ended up just making it so dark you couldn't see it, because, by the way, making a cave unless you have the money to afford the bat cave, which is a genius set.
Good idea.
You can't make rocks look like rocks unless you have tons of money. We learned that, unless they're real rocks. So Claire wakes up in the cave and goes out into the jungle, and it becomes more threatening, and suddenly she comes, as she gets more and more frightened and hears the whispers, which played a lot in the mythology early on in the show.
The monster?
Yeah, I think she sees the monster, she hears it, it's going by, tick, 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 here and there. She comes upon John Locke, and he's got his backgammon eyes, the white and the black. We realize she's having a nightmare. And that's when she was attacked by Ethan. And everyone thought maybe she imagined it. Well, the director of that episode was desperate to shoot that in black and white. And I kept saying, well, that's an interesting idea, which it wasn't. I said, the reason I don't want to do that is because the audience will know it's a dream. And she said, why? And I said, well, because we don't do black and white on this show. And it won't seem like we're in the world. The world's not black and white.
So you need restraint.
So there are times where she got very pushy about it, and I finally just had to say, you're not hearing me, you're not doing it. We're not doing it. So there are times where, as executive producer, overseeing the creative aspects of the show, I do have to intervene and help somebody come up with a better idea. But usually what happens is we have really terrific people on our show who come up with better ideas than I do anyway, so it all works out. At that point in our series, whenever we did anything too weird, the network got a little panicky. They correctly always felt that the heart and soul of our show were characters, were our people. We do too, we still do. But there's also the sci-fi, mythological weirdness to our show, which is an important part of it. So that was a really cool moment. And the network got very concerned, how can Hurly see himself? And we went, well, we could ask that question about 400 things we've done already, but that was one that really concerned them. So Damon and Carlton said to me, make sure that when Hurly sees himself, it's really dark in there. So I shot it, and our cinematographer, John Bartley, who's brilliant, knows how to shoot dark. We got complaints season 1 that maybe the jungle was too dark at night, and we kind of ignored that complaint. But we shot it, and Damon and Carlton saw the scene cut together when we looked at the episode and went, the network's gonna freak out, we gotta reshoot that. And I said, all right, but what do you mean we gotta reshoot it so we don't see Hurly. And I said, but it's Hurly. And Hurly in a rocking chair, if there's any light, moonlight, or anything, you're either gonna see black or you're gonna see that it's Hurly, because it's only Hurly's silhouette, it's nobody else's. You can't disguise Jorge. And they went, well, that's true, but just shoot it again really dark. And I said, look guys, we're missing an opportunity here. It's just, I feel like in Cool Hand Luke, for those of you who know that movie, at one point he has to dig a hole and fill it up, dig a hole and fill it up. I said, I feel like I'm shooting a black shot. It makes no sense. We're missing something cooler. There's somebody better to put in the chair. And so they thought about it and said, okay, we'll think about it. And they came back with Christian Shepherd, right on. And he actually was one of the actors who was coming to do an episode, so it worked out for budget reasons also that he was there. And then what happened, by putting Christian Shepherd in that chair, in subsequent episodes, he ends up in there with Claire, and Christian Shepherd obviously plays a big part in the mythology of our show, and will continue to. But that turn really was something that came out of, oh my God, what are we going to do? We can't shoot a black shot. And then a better idea came.